This is an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder.
Relationship coach Frank Kermit is back on the show, and he's here to discuss a very simple question. How long should you wait to have sex with someone you just started dating? That's a topic that could be a minefield, but Frank is here to talk about it via Skype from here in Montreal. Hi, Frank.
Hello, Peter, and how are you?
Just tickety-boo. Thanks very much for being on the program with us once again. So I'll ask right off the bat, just when is it the right time to discuss that simple question of when to have sex in a new relationship?
I get this type of question very often when people come to me for coaching. They're looking to restructure their lives, to figure out dating and relationships once and for all. Inevitably, this question comes up. How long should they wait before they have sex? The answer is fairly simple, but it is complex to put into action. And here it is. You simply be true to your own values as it regards to sex. Just be congruent with your own sexual values. Ignore the hypocrisies. Don't play these games where somebody has the same freedom you have, you hold it against them. If you are okay with having sex on a first date, then be okay with it. If you want to wait to have sex, then wait to have sex. It depends on your particular sexual values. This is not a game where you're trying to lure somebody in or play a game that's going to make them more or less attracted to you. The key, if you're looking for a long-term relationship, is to simply find someone that has the same sexual values you do. That's the key. So if your sexual value says, yeah, it's okay to have sex right away after getting to know somebody, your goal is to find someone who feels the same way about sex. Not to hold back because you think, well, I want to make a certain type of impression. I don't want this person to think of me in a different way. Be honest about it. If you're okay with it, then go for it. And if you want to wait, if you believe that waiting is better for you, then you wait for that reason. It's that simple. Where it gets complex is that people start playing games because they want to present a better impression or they want to present a different impression of who they are to the person, and that's where problems will creep up later on in the dating process.
But seriously, though, when you with what you just said, when we're talking about, for instance, the first date, isn't it a situation where, generally speaking, both parties are giving the film preview of what they are really like? In other words, a better representation of their personality, not just about sex, but about everything else.
I don't understand the question.
In other words, people on a first date are not necessarily being honest with who exactly they are, regardless of the issue of sex or anything else. You're always better than you are. You're always more well-mannered than you are. You're putting your best foot forward as it is, which isn't necessarily who you are. It's basically who you want to be.
Oh, this is a great point you bring up, Peter. Thank you for bringing up this point. Okay, let's delve into this. When you're on a first date, you want to be your best self. Okay, you want to present those aspects of yourself that you believe are a best representation of what you have to offer. It is not okay to say and do things that are counter your actual beliefs on a first date. Once you cross that line, now you're lying. Now you're committing fraud. Okay, now you're not being honest with yourself. You're not being honest with the other person. So let's choose something that's not related to sex, but will really give a clear example of what we're talking about. Let's say someone is a chain smoker, but on a first date, they will hold back from being a chain smoker. Maybe they'll even just say, well, I only smoke socially. Now they're lying. Okay, that's just a blatant lie. You're better off being a chain smoker on your first date, and if it turns off the other person, so be it. But at least you're being honest about it, and if the other person doesn't have a problem with it, you want to find out right away as well. And that shows that you're going to be much more compatible.
Okay. Well, let's get back to the topic of sex and when to, delve into it in an early relationship. I don't want to generalize, but generally speaking, and we're talking from a heterosexual standpoint here now, Are men more apt to want to hurry towards sex than women, or vice versa, or is that a myth?
Okay, we're talking about general trends.
Yes.
If we're talking general trends, because there's something called the sexual attention paradigm. This says that men are on the projecting end of sexual attention, women are on the receiving end. Generally speaking, men want to have sex sooner because they have to work for sex more than women do. Women are on the receiving end of sexual attention, therefore they can afford to wait, they can afford to hold out and prolong their decision to have sex or not, because if it's just sex that they want, they have abundance of opportunity. Men have to work for that opportunity. So yes, men are going to be more likely to say, I would rather go for sex sooner because of the amount of effort a man has to put in order to acquire that sex.
Okay, so let's look at it from the woman's point of view. What does she have to say or do or think about to concern herself with the idea that maybe he just wants me for sex, and if I, so as the saying goes, give it up, he'll be gone? In other words, how do you know he's after you for the right reasons, per se? That is, because he wants to have a long-term relationship and it's not just a conquest.
Okay, if you are that concerned of being used for sex, then your only recourse is simply not to have sex for a certain period of time, if that is your concern. However, if you're a woman who enjoys sex and you're okay with the casual aspect of sex, you're okay with having sex and not having someone follow up with you, and you do sex for your own enjoyment, then by all means, be yourself and have sex if you want to. It's always with the understanding that if there's an expectation that you attach to sex, that's when you need to communicate your expectations and test the other person to see if they can live up to those expectations. For example, some people equate sex with commitment. If we have sex, you're making a monogamous commitment to me not to have sex with anybody else. They automatically assume that that's what sex means. Well, not every person has that same interpretation as to what sex means. This is why before you have sex, you need to have a conversation. So what does sex mean to you? What are you expecting out of this if we have sex? You would be surprised how often people avoid these topics of conversation because they don't want to hear the answer. They don't want to hear the answer that's going to spoil the little fantasy they're playing out in their head. Sometimes a person will be asked outright, look, are you interested in a serious relationship or not? If someone says, well, at some point I want a serious relationship, but I'm not looking for anything serious right now, the person just told you that whether or not you have sex, they're not looking for a serious relationship right now. You can't impose your expectations of what sex means onto the other person. You need to ask them exactly what it means to them. And if it doesn't mean the same thing that it means to you, that's a sign that you personally need to hold back.
Well, again, this goes back to basically my first question. How long should you wait to have sex with someone that you just started dating? And the reason why I bring the question up again is you mentioned just now that people sometimes have a difficulty having this conversation in a relationship. I would assume it's even more difficult if you or the other party or even both of you are people who want to literally dive into bed really early. Isn't it necessarily awkward for someone to have that conversation with someone they literally just met?
I'm going to tell you this from the perspective of a coach, and this is also something that I practiced in my own life. Yes, it can be awkward. Yes, it could feel a little uneasy, especially the first few times you have this conversation. However, should you be having sex with somebody that you can't even have an uncomfortable conversation with?
Good
Chances
point.
are you shouldn't be having sex with them if you can't handle that type of conversation. When I do pre-marriage coaching, where I'm dealing with a couple that's either engaged to be married or they're thinking about getting engaged, and we delve into a variety of topics, if anybody in that process says, you know what, I don't feel comfortable having this conversation, I'm not ready to have this conversation. Look, if you're not ready to have a conversation about something that makes you uncomfortable, such as things like if you do get serious with this person is going to be the one to decide if they pull the plug or not. Have you thought about under what circumstances you would want your wishes respected and what those wishes are? And someone says, no, I can't handle that conversation. It's too real. It's too far away. And I said, well, it's not necessarily too far away. An accident could cause you to, go prematurely. If you can't have real life conversations like this, then maybe you don't have the maturity that's associated with making lifetime commitments. And that includes having sex. So before you have sex with someone, if you are concerned about catching an STD, are you able to say to the person, by the way, do you have anything that I should be aware of? Because if we have sex, I'm at risk here. So are you willing to share that with me? If you feel uncomfortable asking that kind of question and trying to avoid an STI is very important to you, if you can't ask the question, maybe you shouldn't be having sex. And this has nothing to do with the person you're with. This has to do with your own level of maturity. Having sex comes with a need for accountability, personal accountability. If you can't be accountable for yourself, maybe having sex is not something you should be engaging in at this point.
Always an education having you on the program, Frank. People can find out more information by going to your website, franktalks.com, correct?
That's correct. franktalks.com. I offer coaching. I have a series of books that you can buy. I have a series of audio programs you can buy. Everything is affordably priced. Just go to the website. I got a blog with over 500 articles and interviews just like this one for you to check out for free. Please visit franktalks.com.
Thank you very much for being on the program with us once again, Frank.
All the best, Peter. Be well.
Relationship coach Frank Kermit. You can check out his website at franktalks.com. And you can go to my website at thestuffile.com, go to the What's On page for this show, which is show number 0476, and you'll find the link to his site.
You've just heard an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder. To hear any or all of the full hour-long shows, visit thestuffile.com. Stuph is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's thestuffile.com. A presentation of Flying Fish Communications.